There comes a moment, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when the fire inside you begins to dim. You're not angry. You're not even particularly sad. You're just numb. The work that once gave you meaning now feels empty. The goals you used to chase feel hollow. You're not lazy. You're not ungrateful. You're just tired in a way that sleep can't fix. You sit there staring at the ceiling, asking yourself, what happened to me? Why don't I care anymore? This is the moment where most people believe they're broken, burnt out, done. But what if that isn't the whole story? What if what you're experiencing isn't the end, but the beginning? What if this feeling of emptiness isn't a failure, but a signpost? A signal that your old self, the one who once found joy in these goals, is slowly dying to make room for someone new. In this video, we're going to explore a powerful idea that what you've been calling burnout might actually be a breakthrough in disguise. We'll use the wisdom of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and Carl Jung's theory of the shadow to reframe this crisis of no motivation, not as a breakdown, but as a spiritual initiation. Because sometimes, when life brings you to a full stop, it isn't trying to punish you. It's trying to redirect you. And if you listen closely to the silence, you might just hear something deeper, something sacred emerging from within you. This is not about pushing harder. This is not about hacking your routine. This is about learning to tell the difference between a mind that's overworked and a soul that's waking up. You wake up not to purpose, but to silence, a kind of emptiness that isn't loud or dramatic, but quietly persistent. The tasks you used to love now feel heavy. Your goals don't light you up anymore. The future looks flat. There's no panic, no tragedy, just a fog. A space where something used to be now gone. You ask yourself, what happened to me? Why don't I care anymore? This is a moment most of us have experienced, but few truly understand, because we tend to categorize this sensation as burnout, assuming we've simply exhausted our energy. But what if this numbness isn't exhaustion? What if it's a deeper invitation, an initiation into a different version of yourself? Today we'll explore one of the most misunderstood turning points in the human experience, the crisis of no motivation. And more importantly, we'll ask a radical question. Is this a burnout or a breakthrough? And we'll discover how sometimes losing motivation isn't a failure. It's the first step in a transformation that's trying to be born through you. To begin, we must travel inward. We must examine two maps, one from psychology, the other from myth. 1. The collapse of momentum, the descent. It begins quietly. You don't even notice at first. A missed deadline here, a skipped gym session there. You tell yourself you're just tired. But soon tired becomes disconnected. Disconnected becomes numb. And then numb becomes existential. You're no longer just fatigued, you're alienated. From your work, your relationships, and most disturbingly, from yourself. At this stage, most people assume they're burnt out. They Google it, take a break, maybe book a trip. But the real danger is when the symptoms return. Not because your break wasn't long enough, but because this isn't just about energy. It's about identity. What collapses during these moments isn't just your schedule or willpower. It's the persona, that fragile layer of identity you've built to function in society. You see, according to Carl Jung, your persona is not the real you. It's the mask you wear to survive at work, in relationships, in public. It's who you thought you had to be. And when the motivation that sustained that mask runs dry, you're left staring at the blank space beneath it. This is where the real work begins. 2. Burnout. The body's revolt. Burnout is real. It's not imagined, and it's not always spiritual. Sometimes it's just your nervous system waving a white flag. You've pushed too far, ignored too many signals, numbed too many emotions. You've traded sleep for hustle, joy for productivity, presence for performance. And now your body isn't asking anymore. It's demanding. Real burnout is a biochemical state where cortisol, adrenaline, and dopamine systems collapse. You can't think straight. You can't feel pleasure. You're not lazy, you're neurologically dysregulated. If this is where you are, you don't need a breakthrough. You need recovery, boundaries, nutrition, rest, time in nature, safety. Burnout is the shadow side of over-identifying with productivity. It's what happens when your worth becomes tied to your usefulness. If you treat this as a spiritual calling, when it's really a biological crash, you'll miss the chance to heal your actual body. But if you treat a spiritual breakthrough as a medical problem, you'll medicate away your awakening. Which brings us to the second possibility. 3. Breakthrough. When the soul intervenes. Some burnouts are not biological, they're existential. You're not just tired, you're called. Something deeper inside you is rejecting the life you've built, not because it's broken, but because it's done. This is when your goals stop motivating you, not because you're lazy, but because your old self has outgrown them. This is not collapse. It's transformation. But it only reveals itself if you listen differently. When Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, he wasn't just talking about darkness. He meant the unlived parts of you, the truths you've ignored, the desires you've repressed, the path you secretly long for. And when those unlived truths start knocking, they don't come with clarity. They come with disorientation. The death of the old self always feels like burnout until you realize you're being asked to become someone new. 4. The thin line. Burnout versus breakthrough. Here's the tricky part. Both burnout and breakthrough look the same from the outside. Same fatigue, same apathy, same disconnection. So how do you know which is which? Let's draw a distinction. Burnout feels like emptiness, with no vision. You want to care, but you can't. Breakthrough feels like emptiness with an echo. You don't care about old things, but something new is trying to emerge. Burnout resists action. Breakthrough invites stillness. Burnout says, I have nothing left. Breakthrough says, I'm no longer who I thought I was. 5. Joseph Campbell. The Call to Adventure. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey begins with the call to adventure. But what he doesn't say directly is that the call often shows up as a crisis. The call to adventure doesn't sound like inspiration. It sounds like everything falling apart. The job no longer excites you. The relationship feels off. Your daily routine starts suffocating you. The ordinary world becomes intolerable. And then comes the refusal of the call. You fight it. You distract yourself. You go back to your routines. But nothing works. Eventually, the refusal collapses and you cross the threshold. This is where you meet the mentor, an inner wisdom, a teacher, a new idea. Something that reminds you this crisis is not punishment. It's passage. And then begins the real descent. 6. Jung's shadow. The inner enemy. According to Jung, the shadow holds everything we deny in ourselves. Fears, anger, unmet dreams, unexpressed truth. During a breakdown, this shadow rises, and it feels like depression. But in truth, it's a return of what's real. You stop pretending, you stop performing, and suddenly, you meet the part of you that was buried beneath expectation. Shadow work isn't about healing through light. It's healing through integration. To look your darkness in the eye and say, I see you. You're part of me too. Burnout tries to eliminate the problem. Breakthrough integrates it. That's the difference. 7. Signs you're in breakthrough, not burnout. Let's go deeper. Here are signs you're not just burnt out, but breaking through. You no longer resonate with your identity or achievements. You feel called toward silence. Solitude reflection. You're less interested in goals and more interested in meaning. You start noticing synchronicities, dreams, subtle intuitions. You feel a sense of grief for the self that is dying. You begin to ask who you truly are beyond your roles. These are not symptoms of collapse. They are signs of initiation. But like any true transformation, they require surrender. 8. The spiritual flatline, the liminal zone. There's a space between the death of your old self and the birth of your new one. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagrammable. It's silent gray and deeply uncomfortable. This space is called the liminal zone, the threshold. You're not who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. You don't have a map. You don't know the destination. But you keep walking. This is where most people quit, or medicate, or distract, because they cannot tolerate the void. But the void is sacred. It's where the ego dissolves, where truth is whispered, where you're prepared to hold what's real. If you can endure the silence, you'll hear the signal. 9. From performance to presence. The shift is profound. You stop chasing. You start listening. You no longer define yourself by what you do, but by how you are. You trade performance for presence, image for essence, achievement for alignment. The journey becomes less about getting somewhere and more about being someone real. And strangely, when you stop chasing results, you start creating them naturally, not from pressure, but from coherence. 10. What to do when you feel lost. So, what can you do in this space? Create space for silence. Turn down the noise. Let your nervous system reset. Write without judgment. Journal your thoughts, dreams, fears. Your unconscious will speak if invited. Do shadow work. Ask, what am I avoiding? Who would I be if I told the truth? Revisit your childhood longings. They hold clues to your soul's voice. Walk away from roles that feel fake, even if it means disappointing people. Trust slowness. You're not behind. You're becoming. 11. The return. Integration of the new self. Eventually something shifts. Not because you force it, but because you've allowed it. You begin to feel a new sense of purpose. But this time, it's not loud. It's not anxious. It's grounded. You no longer seek applause. You seek alignment. You no longer need to prove. You need to live. This is the return phase of the hero's journey, where the hero brings back the elixir, not a trophy, but a truth. The truth that you are not your role. You are not your image. You are something far more permanent and far more free. 12. Conclusion. You are not broken. You are in transformation. Let's return to the beginning. You thought you were lost, but maybe you were being redirected. You thought you were burnt out, but maybe your soul was breaking through. This is not the end of your story. This is the dark night before your dawn. So, if you're tired, numb, disoriented, don't panic. Pause. Don't run. Listen. You are in the sacred space between versions of yourself. And if you honor it, if you choose presence over performance, silence over noise, truth over comfort, you won't just survive this. You'll emerge reborn,